Welcome to Grizz's workshop. This great lummox is Grizz.
Not an expert or an exemplar of safety.
Last time out, someone queried me about my mitre track extension, and it's just to show what I do here. This is the Vivor mitre gauge. I saw someone on, saw 731 Woodworks talk about it. It looked excellent for the price. I ended up paying a little more than originally planned, but when it arrived, it didn't quite fit in the slot. Even though my slots are wide enough, as you can see, they are not deep enough. And which meant that the lug screws, which kept it tight to the side, didn't really land in the right place, and also any other idea of raising up the surface beside it in order to use it wouldn't work. So I ended up, as you can see here, using the extension side of the table and popped in a T-track in there. It took a little bit just to get it level, so it wasn't below the surface, but it works a charm. There are some tightening points underneath where you can fit this in and tighten it in, and I also put a couple of spring clamps in there just as well. You know, we like a bit of overkill as woodworkers. It works great. I mean, it does mean that the point you're pushing is further away from the blade than normally would be the case, but it works great for me. Oh, and it's square. So this Christmas I picked up a couple of orders from family. This one is for a wine connoisseur, which sounds better than enthusiast, which again sounds nicer than alcoholic, which is considerably nicer than wino. Anyway, the wine connoisseur had some new wine glasses that were too big for a cupboard, and asked that I make a wine glass rack for her. And this is what I'm making. As I said earlier, as woodworkers do overkill, so rather than just a little box rack, I'm making a little wall cabinet here. So I started by cutting the dados for the shelves, and here I'm using my chisel and my router planer just to clean up those grooves so they fit the shelves better and more consistently. Took quite a long time to clean up the tracks, but they were great by the time I was finished. Yeah, this is a back panel for the cupboard. I did a bit of a dry put together on it, and then I decided the back of panel side would be, and this is a bit of MDF, and what I'm doing here is scoring some lines on it so it matches the cupboards in the kitchen it's going in. Just to tie the two pieces together. Here I'm cleaning up the back of the cupboard where that board goes, and applying a couple of fixes so it can be fixed to the wall. After I've done that, I move on to the wine glass holder. I'm starting off with a wide Forstner bit so there's somewhere for it to sit. And then I come back with a narrow one. Now these are set up for the specific glasses that were bought. So some wider glasses wouldn't actually fit in there. But you just make for what's required. A little bit of clean up on the holes. And then over to the table saw. Now I'm cutting the slits for the wine glasses to go in. This was very straightforward. There was plenty of mitre gauge for the boards to clamp to. Not the best view, all you're seeing is my back. Same earlier when I was cutting the dados. I need to say this worked very well. I'll bring my router to it, just routing around the edges. Again, so the glass fits nice and snug. Now, at some point I decided that the top shelf was going to need some dowel going across it just to restrain whatever's on the top there. So I marked them up for the same place for each of them. Now I'm applying the finish on the inside of all the pieces. It's easy to do now before I assemble it, and it will be afterwards. This is my homemade oil and wax. It's just beeswax and linseed oil. So I'm using this little heat gun. It's essentially the same as a hairdryer, and that will help melt the wax paste a little. I mean, when I'm doing it, when I'm building this, it was in January and it was quite cold, so it took a lot more. Now I'm just marking up for screws to go in the back there, to go on that one shelf. This is just normal wood glue. I use Gorilla wood glue because I can get that at a good price and it's very effective. Now the shelf with the wine glass holder on, that has to be a little shallow because the panel going on the back, so it's you have to account for that when you cut it. And the back went on very easy. After I drilled it in place, I decided to add some nails around the outside, so I drilled some pilot holes and knocked them through. A lot of finish sanding and then applying the wax paste at the end, and then we're done. There's the finished article, and then the finished article in situ.
See you next time on Grizz's Workshop.